right. It's already been said.
Since Joe is running late, I think I'm not too sure the presenter for the release planning. It's running late. We just decided we'll do like a Q&A panel here, like with the experts here. If you have questions from the last two panels, or you want to cover some topic, we'll go into that. Anyone want specifically on the release planning itself? Anyone have questions?
I have a question, not on the release planning.
Yeah, it seems.
When we're like doing things like a rather than batch or ETL into a better package.
It's Agile for what you're seeing, yeah. You want to take this one? I'm touching that ETL team right now, but I'll let you technology.
Why don't you start?
What was the question again?
It seems to me, from my limited experience, that Agile methodology works better with if you're building an application like from scratch, rather than you making significant changes to, say, ETL code loading a vendor package. Because it seems to me that it's easier to break down the work into sprints. If you were making ETL changes, for example, to a vendor package, and in order to update, it's going to take you 4 weeks of development to actually, it seems to me that way.
So,
Doesn't mean it is.
Agile is about values. It's about, there's a lot of different methodologies. And so you're talking Scrum when you start talking about breaking it into like the 2-week cycles.
3 weeks.
Or 3 weeks. Really, what you want to focus on is the value you're deriving. What are we doing in this? So, I actually have worked with a number of ETL teams, and they actually prefer Kanban. Right? Like in Murali's example, we take all the things and we put them on the left and we move them to the right until they're done. We do it. What's the value we're deriving by moving these things over? If we're not having value, we take them off the board and we don't do them. One team I worked with, their entire project was we're going to rewrite all of our ETL out of data stage. We're going to put it into Informatica. We're going to change platform. Right? It's a typical infrastructure project re-platforming. The way that they framed this project was we're going to define every data flow that we need to rewrite and what value we're going to get by moving it off of data stage and onto Informatica. That comes from, data stage is more expensive, so there's some platform save. There's some data efficiency because we can get rid of transformations that were cleaning up the data. We can fix that now. And everything they did, they put a value associated with it on their scheme. And so then they just worked through it. They measured how fast they were able to flow and how fast they were delivering value to the organization. And at some point, they had to keep asking the organization, do we keep going? Are you going to bring value? It also helps prioritize. The one that's going to save the company the most money goes first. So we get rid of the methodology question. We get to the heart of it, which is how do we get value fast into the organization?
But you can run projects using an Agile framework that are not just the front end GUI. You actually have a whole stack. Right now, I'm coaching teams that are, I have an Informatica team, actually several. And putting Scrum, I was debating about Scrum or Kanban, but they needed rigor. They really had a tight time frame to say, okay, we're going to take this little piece of work and we're going to see it through completion because they were struggling with, they were starting everything and they were not finishing anything, right? So we're starting them on Scrum, but I see as they get more mature, they're probably going back from their Kanban and let them flow the work and manage the WIP. They have a ton of WIP. We actually built a Kanban board, put all their work out there, and they saw, oh my gosh, of all this work, I'm not finishing anything. So we kind of gave them transparency.
And the context of my question, they're regulatory mandated changes, therefore they will be done. They have, and so when we went to the product owner went to business and said, well, what's more important? It's a stupid question. The business's reaction is, that's really a pretty stupid question because if we don't do all of these changes, they will find us and we will go out of business. Therefore, all of the changes are of equal value. So we ended up prioritizing based on what we could lump together. Because it's so hard.
Minimal viable product, sorry.
And just the regulatory word, it always gets me going, right?
Did you have a few more slides to go before?
Sorry, we'll go back to your thing.
You want me to finish it? There's some more games.
One of the questions I always like to ask when we start talking regulatory, because saying it's regulatory or it's compliance driven usually ends a conversation. What is the outcome? Let's not talk about positive and negative. What is the outcome if we don't do it? In some cases,
in this particular case, they will find a company enough to do it.
okay. So let's talk about we have 5 compliance items. The one that will find the company enough to put us out of business.
No, it's all of them.
Well,
okay, yeah, because
so that's how you prioritize.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had companies not take on regulatory or audit pieces because they'd actually rather pay. It actually made more sense for them to pay the fine than to fix it.
I've seen that too. Yeah, I've
So
seen
that's
that.
a part of the conversation as to, okay, we know we're going to do it, but we may not do it now because we're going to
This one is
potentially
an
pay
option.
for it.
I have seen that.
That happens. That happens.
So, there was one firm, like, so you know about Dodd-Frank regulation. I don't know if it's related. Dodd-Frank was the first big nightmare that all the banks had.
Not the first.
It was the first, but it had on the recent past, right? So one of the way of thinking about it was very simple, which is we all have to comply. We have to do this, but we don't have to pass with grade A. We just want to pass. That's it. And what happened is they created a federation, right? They created a federation of all the banks that are going into it, and they decided to work with the CFTC on how they are going to read that particular law or that particular statement on what they will make, so that the implementation is the least expensive for them. The right way of doing it, yeah, obviously how it was intended to was like massive resources, right? It will take massive resources. But if all the guys who are going to implement it come into agreement that we'll all do only this minimum viable product, that means we have read the word, but we are satisfying its minimum need. And the government CFTC has to agree. So there were monthly conferences with CFTCs where all the consultants, like working with all these major banks, we'll all come together, we from Wells Fargo, from all this come together and say, we have decided this, and everyone say yes, and what will CFTC do? Right? So what they did is the same work. Yes, we have to do, find out the minimum viable product. And prioritization basically was the government mandated deadlines. So these has to be compliant by this time. The data has to be reported to the exchange by this time, and all that stuff. That drove it. But because we found out and agreed among our stakeholders and our partners saying that this is the minimum viable thing that we'll do for each piece of this, and by the way, none of us are going to do this by this date because it's not possible. It's all asked for an extension. So they all worked together. So this was the first, it was an Agile project across companies with the government. If you see the entirety of it, it was very much Agile. They did that. We did it as a group, not just as a company, as one team in one company. It was done all across the nation. If you look at that view, it was already Agile. It's perfect. So that is one of the ways. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's actually a great example because it's the principles, the transparency and the collaboration. But it's not like we're trying to not comply with this. And more often than not, I've seen if you actually are open with your regulators, here's what we're doing. Guys, we don't want to go out of business. You can have the keys now for business, or you can help us. Be a partner. We're fixing it as fast as we can. I'm working with a client now that's under, they had an MRA. Matter requiring attention to regulators. So, right? And they said, this is what we can do right now. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do right now. And here's our timeline. And we'll be transparent as to the final right solution. And sure enough, the MRA was satisfied. But you're going to get an MRIA, matter requiring immediate attention, the really bad letter, if you don't meet your obligations and you're not transparent with us.
And that's what's going on. It's the managing of the technology piece there. It fell apart under, basically fell apart under Agile. We were working in Oracle.
But you got to kind of why.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm still trying to be.
Maybe
that just happened on Friday, so I'm still trying to figure out
It wasn't really
why.
maybe Agile, which is interesting because I've had a lot of folks thinking, well, it's Agile. This is the reason why this is going it's actually not Agile. Agile's not a silver bullet, I can tell you that. However, it will show your problems a lot faster, and it makes you deal with them a lot faster. So, that's what Agile's doing is for us. No, you were always this way.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just actually bringing them to the surface a lot sooner, and they're a lot more apparent because they're slowing us down from moving forward. And that's what we've got to kind of figure out.
You can't bury it for 6 months.
Right.
Actually, the Agile process was what was slowing it down. Because the
Was it the
regulator.
process or was it the
Yeah,
organization?
yeah, the product owner, the building and user stories, and sorry, you can't start the development, and no, wait, why are you moving things around? It was proposed, so I don't know whether it was that this project wasn't well suited, or whether it was because they'd known for 6 months what they had to do, so the developers knew that it was quite complex, and so they got started, and then they assigned the product owner very late in the process, and so it was that. I don't know why it fell apart, I just know it's now waterfall, we've got 2 releases, and we're marching to that. And I'm still trying to figure out what the hell just happened.
So we talked about one side, right, the process and protocol scale responsibility. So
Yes.
even if it is Agile, if the focus is on the processes and protocols, if there was somebody saying it has to be written in this way and we have to do this in this way, only then we're allowed to do this, that is the reason. It's not Agile. It's because we kind of shifted focus from the intent of the process and went as to the process implementation. So you have somebody who's trying to implement it as a process. This is not, so think about what we did with the school project, right? It was nothing, just a Kanban board, a visual indication of bringing the focus together.
Right.
If I had given these rules to them, you know what would have happened in a second grade thing? How long would it have taken? So it would have never worked. The reason it worked was we gave them a guideline. We just said, use this, use the intent, put Charlotte's Web, the intent, that this is the goal and this is the timeline. Do whatever is needed. Show that you're contributing to having your name there. That's all of the basic rules, right? And what they were talking and they saying, they learned a lot more about value delivery, collaboration, and team, everything, without having been coached. Because you start coaching them process, forget the intent, remember the labels, remember the steps, forget the value or the intent behind it, it's all gone. And that happens not just for any kind of project. It's not like the project. The reason is the project or the complexity. It's basically the reason is where is your focus on.
Next
So
question.
it's using
Another
intent to
question?
do it, right?
Another question, is there another question?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is transparency in Agile?
11.
It's like a leading question.
What's the next one?
Well, why do you ask that first?
Because I think a lot of people, myself included, try and just relate project management to Agile. And I think a lot of times in this waterfall, you operate in your silo. And I'm working away and I'm getting this code done and you don't know what the person next to you is doing. And so, especially I have contractors, there's any developers in the room, but developers in the room, they don't like to talk to people. They don't like to be in the room.
know what you're talking about.
I used to be a developer, so I get it.
I have a question.
Yeah, it was a leading question. I think it's just important to remember that communication is.
Communication.
And transparent, like, one of the things I tell folks is that there are always areas you cannot be 100% transparent. Usually those are personnel matters, sometimes, M&A, you're doing a merger and acquisition, you haven't signed the deal. Okay, we can't be fully transparent. But you can say things like, I can't tell you this now because, or that's an HR matter, I really can't get into it. Right? You can give indicators that show you're being as transparent as possible. I'm running actually with the team I'm working with right now. My biggest proponent, the reason I'm coaching this team, he is outwardly very much a supporter of Agile. But he's also, as a program manager, he still feels the need to control the flow of information. And on day one of, this is a brand new team. Day one, they were using Scrum. The day before their first sprint, the development manager walks in and says, there's been a lot of architectural changes. There's a new CIO. We don't know what UI technology we're going to use. We don't know if we're going to follow the same data strategy. We don't know if we're going to follow the same services strategy. The only thing we know for sure is we're staying on IBM BPM because we can never get rid of Big Blue. With that information, yes, it was chaotic, but with that information, the team refocused on the BPM part because we knew it was going to stay around and we could deliver the value to that. That program manager found out and said we should never have communicated. It was improperly communicated. We didn't have a final answer for you, so it shouldn't have been communicated. And I think it's a great example of the team continued to deliver value because there was transparency. Had there not been that transparency, they would have been working on things that may or may not exist today. And in fact, they did shift their direction pretty significantly. But that team was able to highly perform and understand where the directional shifts were coming from. If they had already started building, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, there's this massive shift in direction, and, well, here's all your architecture documents. You've been working on that for months. Why didn't you tell me? Not only do you lose transparency, you lose trust. All right, so transparent for me, that's one of my pet peeves. Transparency is huge. And when you can't be honest about it. This is not an area I can speak to right now, or ever.
They can't hide. It's like the lizards. You go out and they go out in the woods. It's like you lift up the rock. The light hits and everything's scattered. I'll give you another example. This had to do with Microsoft project, but I was implementing the Microsoft project in the major telecommunications company. You know what one of the senior managers told me? I can't have my director seeing this before I even massage the data. The transparency brings truth out there. Agile brings the truth out there, where the problems are, where the issues are, and most managers, program managers, don't like that being communicated out because they don't want to be part of and blamed for that. And that's very transparent, very bad.
Well, I think it's because historically that's not how we've operated. We've always been on a routine basis, especially in these very large organizations, right? That was how we have been brought up. That's how these organizations operate. And this is a big shift in how we have to think and how we have to do it. That's why
So do you think, what's on the side of the data? Do you think, and so I'm thinking of emotional intelligence now, do you think it makes them feel needed and community and it's job security because you can't do this yourself? And Agile maybe puts that a little clear. Other than that?
No, a lot of the jobs.
Yes.
A lot of the
Well,
jobs.
especially the need for program managers.
Transparency is even before Agile, right? Like the transparency between departments, right? It was not there because they had their own employees and they had to protect their walls because the same company, for example, if I was in one of the big banks here, the same company, when we are trying to consolidate or build a solution between 3 different departments, and they are doing the same things, they are having the same technology built 3 times. And they are using the same vendor and 3 licenses. Same, so I'm one guy, right? I'm one person, but I am paying the same vendor, Big Power, for 3 different service lines to my house. I'm using the same vendor, but I'm using and giving them consulting fees and everything for their support and everything. Same company is doing it. 3. How does it happen, right? Because they want to protect their domains, they want to keep that guarded. They are not looking at that for a supply, right? It's all that the well syndrome. You're all in one well. You're trying to build value within that well, and you don't recognize the existence of the other well. And that is the systems thinking approach we're talking about. So I think in that approach we can solve. But yes, it has to happen with the org changes, with the restructuring, with OD. That the question was the organization design and development. It has to happen with HR. It has to happen holistically, and it is difficult. You can show them that this has to happen, and for the past decade, Agile has shown them and inflicted the pain on the organization by upbringing all these things, right? So you're recognizing these right now before it was hidden very easily. So they realized the pain. They were trying to start to feel the urgency to make those changes. And then there are other firms which will come up at this time and say, don't worry, don't change now. We'll create a safe transition period for you that you can still be Agile, but we'll do this. So protect their existing status quo structures. So this is going to happen. This won't happen in small startups. They can't afford it. This won't happen in new emerging companies with right divergent thinking and innovations. It won't happen. It will happen with existing big companies, and that was the reason I said most of them will not be existing in the next 5 to 7 years. Do you have a plan for it? So it has changed or kind of disappear as the options there. But it has to. It's the people's movement. It's the people who need to change.
It takes time. I used to work for IBM and global services, and every time we went to a new account, we loosen up the value of somebody. We go in there and we promise them, contractually, we'll implement, CMM or CMI or whatever the methodology was. 18 months. So it's not a silver bullet. It's not a, okay, we're going to adopt Agile today, and June, August is good, right? No, it's a year and a half out. You're rolling it out. The adoption takes place. Your champions are working long hours to get that adoption throughout. The business side, tech side, supplier side, and then getting everybody on board. And it's not a year and a half was fast.
Yeah. And if you really believe in that continual improvement aspects of things, it never. Right, and that's
that gets you to level 2.
Consultants don't transforming, right? But I mean, they should. I mean, good coaches, good consultants don't need to embed in compliance for 12, 18 to, I mean, you gotta get to a point where as an organization, you're relying, you're owning the journey, right? And that's part of our philosophy is that we don't want to sit and we're a crutch for them. We actually want to help them and teach them, build those teams that can go in.
Any tips, tricks, or your approaches towards grooming or refinement as part of STEM? How do you conduct it? How do you do it?
Running back to
What are you doing now? What's space not working? Are you doing it at this point? I'm like, I don't know.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
What you're doing is getting the product owner to come and with the sprint goals, not really even sprint goals at that point, but more of an idea of the prioritization of the items, and we're just kind of going through them, getting acceptance criteria. We're doing it the off week from our 2 meetings. But at the same time, I thought maybe you could, I don't feel like there's a ton of pain points that I would be experiencing, but I thought maybe I could learn something that you guys have seen.
So just a couple of things that I think make them work better. Having the acceptance criteria from the business perspective and not trying to write them in a refinement session is important. Now, if you make sure everyone that's necessary is in these sessions. So you're going to have technology and business. Technology might offer suggestions for changes to the acceptance criteria, but if you're trying to write things, hash things out, it very easily devolve into a solutioning session. Stories, you would spend hours. I work with a team where they spend 3 hours and they couldn't get through one story. And it's because they were solutioning. They were trying to design it. By the time they came out of refinement, it's almost to code level. It's like, guys, that's what we do in the other side. But it sounds like you're doing it off weeks. It's always a good thing. You're not direct. It's kind of the smooth week. Making sure that if there's a lot of questions or a lot of debate about a story, we punt that out of the session. Because that will derail the session very quickly.
Do you have a definition of ready? Are you using that?
Yeah, definition of ready, we definitely work on grooming. Though it's not really finalized until.
what is the bottlenecks you have right now? Because what prompted this question?
I actually do. I do several story writing sessions for our sprint. Some are just for business, just business focused to get that called deep. And then I'll be very mindful and pull my tech team once of the sprint to actually look at the story side and refine them if they need to. So I try to make sure I spend more time with the business partner and then pull my tech team in and keep that very. I facilitate that one, right? Because I want to keep that one moving.
But you do a story writing session?
I do like 2 or 3 a sprint with my product, with my business. And I may pull a technical team because I might need help, right? Because I am a very technical team. But I try to do, and that's almost a parallel process happening with the sprint going on. The business should be writing stories outside of
So
that.
two different happening.
Yeah. So refinement.
Business focus and the other one primarily technology focus.
Sizing and refinement.
I don't know about you guys, but it was like pulling wisdom teeth to get the business to get us the stories so that we could get to work on.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was always a bottleneck, was getting the business to provide us their stories so we could then take it to the next steps. I mean,
They're not
always.
ready, we can always work on top of that, right? That's that non-emotional, I mean,
So-
so that's the being the hard.
Let me take this from from a servant leader as a technology manager. So if you are running into situations where the business isn't ready, one of the things I used to do as a servant leader is I'd walk to the business and say, that's perfectly okay. You have this much capacity. If you don't fill it, here is my wish list from a technology perspective. And this is what we'll do because I'm not going to idle it. It's no value to the enterprise for them sitting waiting. And so that wish list might include cleaning up some tech debt, cleaning up our logging process. I mean, it gets very technical, but it's all things that will eventually bring value to the organization, either through quicker triage in production or fewer production incidents or compliance with our vendors if they wanted us to upgrade for years, something of that nature. And when you start framing it that way, and you are losing all this capacity, I'm gaining it, so I'm happy. Right? The business now, it's almost psychological. Why am I giving you that capacity? That's my money that you're spending, right? So sometimes you need, to facilitate those conversations, you need to drag in some of those servant leaders on the technology side to give the business a little bit of a nudge. Again, it's holistic. What is good for the enterprise? And an idle team is never good for an enterprise. We're just spending money.
I have a question. Is it a safe assumption to think that the business users are actually doing work outside of the meeting? Or are they waiting to talk about the stories that they want to accomplish, or are they waiting till your meeting to discuss everything there?
Which meeting?
My experience is that they're waiting for that meeting.
Which meeting are you
They
talking
should
about?
not be waiting.
Are you talking about the daily
So they
scrum?
understand their role, right? If they understand the role as a product owner, and the organization is actually bought in at their product owners, that's part of it. Because that is a whole new role that is not typical what we see in many organizations. One person dedicated to owning the product and actually getting the revenue and driving the direction of it, right? So that's that HR org change thing that we were talking about. So if they understand their role, then yes. And yes, they're spending their time. They're understanding they're getting stories ready. They're directing where it needs to go. If they don't understand their role, then no. They're going to wait for that BA or TA, if you guys have those roles, to say, okay, let's write stories. What do you want to write about today? And then we'll sit there and start regurgitating things, right? So that's part of how do you build that environment as our master to make sure the product owners know what their roles are, and then to get the agencies build that partnership together.
The purpose for Master Rose is to educate. You know, it's to facilitate that you have to educate.
And
Yes.
basically just mentioned something, because one of the, I would say, the best solutions I've had to work with as a project manager is I had IT, I call them IT BAs, all the technical system admins. Hey, write the stories. The business owner just found 2 lines, and then the BAs were off and just fill them up, and then they would run the grooming sessions, and the product owner was kind of there, but you never hear them speak. You knew they were lying, but my BAs were just. Yes,
They're filling in.
yes, and I actually had problems with my BAs stepping way over the line and acting like product owners in meetings. So there was a interesting as a project manager, enjoying some of that technicality, but also having to kind of slap them upside the head for you can't do that. The business needs to make that decision. That's not your place to do so. But it kind of helps if you do have a BA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a really high-performing team right now, and essentially they have a product owner, a tech analyst, and a business analyst. And exactly what you're talking about. The product owner is working with the external stakeholders, It happens to be an operations group, so they're working with the people on the line and the middle managers and the supervisors to get the requirements and make sure it's valid. But then they have these analysts that are making sure it's getting done. And the dynamic that they've formed, if they're working really dedicated to this project, is that all of them know what's going on. The product owner may not be writing the stories, but the product owner understands them. And she's actually taken the position of she will facilitate all of these sessions, even though she didn't write them, so that she understands them herself. But they're also at the point where if anyone wants to take vacation, they can step away and any of those 3 people can run those sessions and keep the team moving. Having an analyst of any sort, I think, is extremely beneficial.
Second, the dependence on goals, right? So if you're after the objective, and if the team can move together and has found those relationships and has partnerships and created, that is more important. So these roles that we're talking about, right? So we talked about that developer and tester, now we're saying the team members. Slowly you'll see that this whole thing of product owner, Scrum Master, each having specific roles, even that's not important. If you have created the original team right, and they can all support each other, you can achieve it. So in a traditional environment, right, there was this BA, technical BA, from one of the banks university. She was pretty frustrated with things going on, and she's been asking some mentorship advice and stuff, and she said, I have written the requirement document. I had to get 10 people to sign it off. 8 of them did the sign off, right? They did, and 2 of them did not. And my manager says that goes against my thinking. How is it possible? What do you think? What's to blame?
Screw it, still. Sorry, I mean, I guess
We've
Kevin.
got the wrong metrics, right?
well,
We're just dragging the wrong indicator.
So it's both ways,
Yes.
right? So I could very well say it's not your fault and make her feel good about it and let it go. But then I thought, I'm transforming, I'm really trying to help her go into the new way stuff. What would my answer be is, what if those 2 people are not signing because they didn't like some aspect of it or their problems were not addressed? If they come back, you have to change it. It comes back to your work, and that's why it's your responsibility. But they should also get dinged because they didn't respond in time. So how do you form a relationship of collaborativeness that you can get that work done? So what are the things you do?
I'm serious. As a project manager, what's my job? It's to get it done. So guess what? Those 2 people, I'll deal with them all the time. We're going forward with 8 out of 10. I'm not waiting for 2. And
But
guess
the
what?
business won't agree.
I should have given this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump. But, we had to schedule. You guys asked us to get this done. I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to sit there for 3 weeks and wait for it. No.
That's that massive piece we learned about.
That in a way kind of leads to the command and control, right? So what if there was no project manager? This work had to be done. It was a team. It was that bunch of second graders that we're talking about. There's no PM, there's no direction. And that is what you need. You need a high performance environment. You need to create that. And so what you curate, what kind of metrics, which metric, how you measure success, what is the message you're sending across to every folks? If I take one particular email and reward somebody for doing something, it sends messages to 2 different sets of people. One person takes it as an encouragement, second person takes it as learning that what not to do and what to do. So it's a dangerous thing to be.
And I'll say that you want to find, when you see things like this, you're getting like multiple answers here, right? I think the ultimate thing is, how do we get rid of this behavior?
It's tough.
Because it turns into, I think more often than not, I've seen the approach
I'm
of
kind
just
of leaning
go.
towards Kevin, and I would send the email saying, in the absence of approval, we're
That's
going,
where I was going.
I would take this
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Right? That's the
And
emails that get
reject
sent
this.
out.
And we're going to start on 21st.
And that email,
Before I went there, I
No
was
rejections, you start.
PM, we had this stakeholder matrix. So I was looking, my stakeholders are what value, business value, and
Right.
those 2 people who didn't do it, your value is really low. I'm moving forward, and I'm going to communicate.
I've got the SVP signature, I don't need the VP signature.
So the other important question is on the sign off, 10 people, the 5 whys. What's the heart of the issue going on here? Is it because there is a compliance thing that needs to be approved? We forget about the why.
Right.
Because we're all there, it's important.
I suspect that the ultimate why is that people want to have control and
Yeah, the sign
issues,
off,
not how are you going to deal with
Right.
signatures. Why do you need to sign off? I mean,
The sign-offs are all
What does meaning
part
say?
of the industrial mindset protection of command and control.
Yeah.
That is part of that. So there is a software that we built for a government, that we had to wait one. It was a good, profitable thing. It was a new thing we're doing. It was eliminating a lot of process errors. And there is this person, one person, who does some work that will be completely automated by the software. And not very senior at all, very, probably 4, 5 level from the tops, that kind of person. And she implemented, because of the relationship, the number of years she has stayed, 20, 30 years, what she did was she was able to fire the manager who was supporting this entire project. Means get him out of the thing. And to such an extent that the entire contract after almost the product was built about was to go away, and they were going to spend money to redo it. The executive who is supporting, another executive supporting says, we know this is the right thing to do, but we need to take care of her. We need to do something that makes her job here feel that she's secure. She has to have a job. So we had to redesign the software completely. This won't go directly and get approved and get thing and come. From here it will come to your queue. Only if you press this button it will go here. And from there it won't go to the next level. It will come back to you and you have to press this button. So we gave 5 extra control points for her to do just to make that product come. So this has happened. This is a government thing. So that was happened, right? So it was all through. It was very happy product ready. Otherwise it was a total scrap, millions of dollar waste. Somebody else would do that. Command and control, we wanted a play there. Coming to the other side, a developer or in the technology where one guy would not leave a manual process that is becoming a bottleneck for the entire enterprise. He will not. And he has immense power, the same way like we're talking about. How do you go about changing it? Yeah, we're doing Agile, we're doing everything, but we have this whole political thing. But then we go back to the elements of design thinking, look from the empathy. This person has been forced in a non-meaningful job of just handling one particular data sheet for all the 2 or 3 years he has been. Earlier she has been last 2 years. Forgotten everything, that's the only thing he or she knows, and he's dependent on it. It is important because everybody recognizes him and identifies him with that. Right? You made him dependent on a meaningless thing for too long. You didn't give him reprieve. He doesn't know any other way of adding value. Can you give him an alternative? This is the line we had to think about. And the team sat together, thought about, they said these are the 5 other areas that we need improvement and help on, which he has some knowledge on. We proposed it as an idea to him. What do you think, John, if we do this? And John says, oh, John, that's a brilliant idea. And he fill in the blanks and creates. He created 5 other new ways of adding value to the company. He was the first guy who was canvassing for getting rid of the process that he was being a bottleneck for the 3 years. It was a change. It was Agile. The team came together, solved it. And this was from the second grader answer. When Jack did this, Daddy, this is how the answer started. And we translated it literally into how to implement in this world. Think empathy, go into their position, wear their shoes, and you'll know why that's happening. The team is Agile, they're doing wonders, and that guy is doing amazing.
I'm going to ask how important, I've seen one company where the product owner is actually part of technology. Does that work?
I guess it depends what it depends what type of product you're building.
Yes.
Right? If you're building a product that is network basic for the business, it's a no. If it's a technical product,
It's business
right?
facing.
Yes, I've been in a role like that too.
And I'm
It doesn't work well. You actually aren't close enough to the customers as to what the needs are, right? It's your traditional technology driving your projects. It does not work well, and I agree.
It's about what your core competency should be. Technology, we need to understand the domain. By no means am I saying, what I'm about to say is that technology can abdicate the responsibility for understanding the domain. But we don't work in the domain day to day. It's the business that has to deal with the domain and the actual implementation of the
Product owner
system.
really should be in the business.
Yes, they should.
You said AML, right?
That's part of how my Agile project fell apart.
But you said AML, right? AML, on the AML side?
Oracle has a package called Mantis. It's in a money laundering software, so
Okay.
you feed in all the various transactions and they're running its scenarios to identify potential issues. So it generates alerts that the business looks at and then just be
Right.
dispositioned one way or another.
But the scenarios are defined, right? Those have to be, so you're more forming a preemptive
Well,
protection.
this is already in production, probably.
Maintenance.
No, FINRA said they weren't looking into that, basically. Okay, you're looking at these, that's great, but you could have all these other issues over here.
And I think it's because historically we have an attitude that business doesn't want what they want, right? They can't make up their mind, they don't know what they want, we're going to tell them what they
Yes,
want.
the developer says that.
Right, so that's why this is a change, and you don't usually, you have to educate, hey, we want someone from your business, we want you to own and drive this product and where we're going with it.
And the part that I don't understand why it was set up is when they hired some company to come in and tell them how to set up Agile. And the first thing I thought was,
Some company.
well, I don't know which company.
I'm just
They hired,
kidding.
no, I don't know the name of the company. I know they hired somebody, but I wasn't there, so I don't know the name of the company.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that I thought was, why is the product owner in IT? Like, I don't get this. No, so I just wanted to.
Well, maybe that heads to the bigger question. What do you guys see as the ideal characteristics of this product?
Can you just define like a product, is there just one product owner for the, what do you call it, the release or the
So
solution?
there's a one product owner for the product, whatever that is. And that's not, that goes beyond a project.
I'm trying to, like,
It's the thing you're.
So let me give you, yeah, so,
Whether that thing is a car model for a
Right.
company or an application, or, you know, it's whatever the thing is that you're producing.
so there's only one owner of the solution?
yes.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that there is one person that can make a decision when you have conflicting stakeholders or conflicting goals in the enterprise. So they are supposed to make the decision that's best for the enterprise and no one stakeholder.
Yes.
So that person needs to be very respected in the organization because you're going to make decisions that somebody's not going to like. And that's especially difficult when you say you have multiple stakeholders and they're all funding a little piece of your initiative. Right? Everybody feels like we're beholden to the money. So this person has to be trusted for the enterprise to make decisions for the enterprise.
Also have broad shoulders, right? Because they're going to get people saying, why did you not put my piece in? Right? They're going to be, you need to be able to manage that, do stakeholder management outward.
So
What if the solution crosses, which every project I've ever had crosses business lines? So you have finance, you mentioned, shop floor or operations, et cetera.
Yep.
So you have one person that represents all the different functional areas.
Funnels in, and they work together to prioritize it, and that partner is one that's going to make the ultimate decision to say, this is what we're going to work on next, and works with the teams. Now, there's a lot of different scaling models out there, that you can put
It's a whole
in place,
other
like where you
topic.
may have like a product manager, and then they have to talk to product owners, that's a whole other conversation, but typically there's that one person that's making that decision for the product and direction, and then taking feedback from the stakeholders.
I
Good
think
characteristics, did you want to characteristics?
not the characteristics, but the same thing what we're talking about in Toyota, like lean systems, like EPS and lean. They had this role called Shasta something that they used to call, but it means the chief engineer. When you have a new model coming up, that is his. It's known as his car. There are contributions to the changes from everybody, anything and everything, but he's the final authority. So he will either dictate, not as the command and control style, but he will actually come to consensus, create the right decisions, give the reasons why it's refusing and all. It's a servant leadership position again, but that is the person. That is the person who we all need to go to, because it's his kind of a meeting. Think of it that way. But it's not a hierarchical or anything, it's because that role is needed so badly. There are a lot of different things, because I will look from my developer angle only this way. Right, from VA might look at different, I have seen these test cases fail this way in that company, now I need to worry about this. Both of them might be right, and the product owner might be able to pull in a third person or validate to us and find that the third answer was right and change to that. But somebody needs to be there to collect those different inputs and create and run those.
You may have different types of product owners where when they own it enterprise level, and then you may have the lower level ones where individual implementations that this customer we have, this is in the cloud, our product's in the cloud for this customer, and you have a product owner for that. For that little piece of
Like a chief product owner,
This
you know.
is an overarching enterprise one as well. So you got to deal with all of these.
Scaling's a whole different ballgame.
So I think, yeah,
The characteristics of a product owner remain the same.
You want them to be respected in it, you guys live on to respect in the organization, they have to subject matter expertise, they can talk to the product, they're sort of there, and they're able to make decisions. So those are some of the best part, and they're actually there with the team, working with the team day to day. So they don't have this kind of a pompous attitude, they actually realize the team is just going to make or break them, and they become sort of leaders to them too. Those are some of the quick hits.
Quite two questions with 40-second answers.
Oh gosh.
Good book from Brett Lately about
I'm doing,
Maybe you've written a book
so,
lately.
Morale actually talked about, it's not necessarily a book, but I've been doing a lot of work on Lean Change Canvas, and I started using that with why we're doing Agile, and getting them to make a one-page. So, that's like a book, but it's where I've spent my energy lately.
Lean change, what was the third
Lean
one?
Change Canvas
Canvas.
is a one-page. There is a book, there is books, but I'm spending my time learning more about it.
Lean change canvas.
Canvas. It's a one-page version as to
So-
why do we want to do Agile.
A book I'll recommend, which is typically actually from the DevOps space, but to me, DevOps is just Agile rebranded, the Phoenix Project. Do you know that the author for that one? If you Google the Phoenix Project, you'll get it.
Yeah.
It's a few years out, 2 years old. But I read it, and it's like the author captured every pain point I've ever went through, and why we change our behaviors so that we get better as an organization, and why we need to think as an enterprise and not just my little domain. So I think as my fiefdom, we're doomed.
I would say definitely the Lean Startup,
Yeah, that's good.
and look at another one which is Creativity Inc. Lean Startup.
That's actually a really good one.
Eric Rice is the guy. And there was like the campus. Creativity Inc. is another one. Creativity Inc. if you're looking at doing or creating or coaching and creating a cost as a team for yourself, Creativity Inc. is literally walking through how to create that kind of space. Not about Agile, something else.
Which repository would you use if you were starting out? Like Jira, Open Rally?
Oh,
And maybe, probably even different question, what's the easiest? Because we're moving it.
oh, geez.
Fine, easy.
Easy to use, most accepted.
Do you want to integrate with anything else?
I was gonna.
How much money do you have?
What's your role?
What's your budget?
So they're all good at different things.
Yeah.
Jira is going to be usually the cheapest, just because that's Atlassian's cost model.
Let's look at developers.
But what else do you have in your enterprise? That's the next question you need to ask yourself.
Rally version 1 of Jira.
You have one.
So what tools do you use beyond that? And that may be a research project. So I know like lots of folks use ALM for HP tools for testing, and they're probably never going to go anywhere. HP has a pretty good lifecycle management tool, HP Agile Manager. I like version 1. But
I use Rally. And
so
Virtual.
Rally is out there. Rally just got acquired by Computer Associates.
Yeah.
So that's an open question for me. But it really depends what you want to integrate with, right? If you have if you're a large enterprise, you probably aren't going to strip out all your tools and go to one thing. So you need the integrations. If you're a small shop, Atlassian tools are awesome.
Yeah, sure, it's really easy. As far
Yours
as trying to
easy.
get people wrapped up with your smaller
Yeah.
team.
Well, and
You
from
can-
our perspective.
You can fail cheap. If you don't like it, you go back to Wishbone. So that's why it's
But we're supposed to fail fast.
Fail fast and cheap, right?
Or Rally, I mean, most of these have cloud present based small team versions that for free. They allow you to try them out. Rally definitely does. I think
Atlassian
version 1
does.
and Atlassian does. So, just go look and feel. So half the time, they all do the same thing. It's a matter of what seems more natural.
Teams will adapt.
When we did this initially about like 10 years back, almost 8 years back now, Wells Fargo, right? When we had to do the tooling decisions, the things that we measured was what like Oscar was saying. How many tools is your current team using? And then are you going to add one more, or how many are you going to replace? So the reason he was asking was what other things you have is what can it integrate with this? Can you reduce the number of tools that my team member needs to use and actually give him more time to work or think completely? If you're adding apart from the clarity, time management, all that stuff, and including and give additional one tool and say that is also mandatory, means I won't agree to it. So now tell me which tool will remove some and which will minimize the effort and which will work multi-purpose. That will answer.
Well, thank you guys very much.